people are new to Azure? Don't tell me you're new to Azure, please, because we had so many sessions on Questpoint on Azure. We had a full tutorial as well. So, but still, I would like to ask that how many people are new to Azure? Yes, that's to delete a resource is also training, but so how many people are new to Azure? At least this class needs that you should know basics of Azure. So in this class, I won't be talking about, all that why Azure is needed and so on. So very quickly, people who are new to Azure, I would really suggest that you should be, even if you know the basics, Amit, it is good, right? But so first thing, we have a step-by-step Azure videos out here. These videos are more from the practical perspective. These are not from exam perspective. So basically, all of these videos are out here. You can go and you can watch them. But this specific class is only from the AZ204 preparation, right? So let us get started. So I can see that none of them have said that they are new to Azure. So that means that all of the people are, at least they know the basics of Azure. Even if you know how to create a virtual machine, I'm okay with that. Some basics I will revise, right? So first thing, what is this AZ204? This AZ204 exam is all about making you a proper Azure developer. So an Azure developer who can go ahead, who can create applications, who can monitor applications, who can do performance tuning, who can do monitoring, who can do much more than what just creating a resource and hosting it. So much more than that, right? So that's why, if you look at AZ204, like for example, if you look at AZ900, wherein you just go and create a virtual machine, but they will not talk about that, how to go and enable just in time. They will not talk about, how to go ahead and create an ARM template and host it. They will not talk about PowerShell must be. So they will say, okay, create a VM and you're done. Host an app service. For example, in a normal time, you'll say, okay, I'll host an application service. But how about enable diagnostic, right? So you can think about this AZ204, takes you more in depth into Azure, right? And if you look at the distribution of the exams out here, yes, you need to clear the fundamentals. I can see that some people have asked that do you need to clear the fundamentals? Yes, AZ900 is compulsory. You can go and you can watch the AZ900 exam, right? And very important, a lot of people who do not want to give certification, I would suggest it's okay. So don't worry about that. I want to clear AZ204. I would suggest that, all these points out here, how we can cover them practically, how we can know things practically. So rather than going through questions, my goal here would be definitely I will go through the questions, but that would be the last thing. So for example, now let us say if I take one topic out here, provisioning of VMs. I would like to show you a demo of provisioning of VMs, right? Like, saying, okay, how to go ahead and enable the remote access or the just-in-time access. I would like to talk about what is this just-in-time access, why do we need it, right? So please note that this is going to be a lengthy session. So anyone who is coming out here just for dumps and etc., we will have that in between one of the class where we will go through the important questions of AZ204. But my main goal would be that I would like to take the syllabus of Microsoft and show you demonstrations, show you actually what it means, right? I can see one question out here, sir, I'm here to clear certification. It is good, you will clear certification. But remember that once you see something practically, it has more effect in life, rather than just doing certification, right? So here, this is how the AZ204 is, the topics are. You can see there are 5 topics out here. And if you look at these 5 topics very, very closely, right? So these are the 5 topics. So let me go ahead. This is how the roadmap Microsoft has decided, for AZ204. So very quickly, I'll go to my drawing board out here. So if you look at developers out there, developers who create applications, they do certain things. For example, the first thing is, they actually go and create applications. They write code. They can write code which is a web application. They can write code which is a background service. They can write small piece of code like function apps or whatever, right? So, but they will write some kind of a code. They will access definitely some kind of a data. Now in Azure you have lots of data storage out there like tables and so on, right? And definitely they will talk with each other. Developers want to do that. So the first thing is, the first topic, if you see out here, Azure Compute Solution. Azure Compute Solution is on this level. So this is where they have targeted, and in this, what they have targeted is they have said that, okay, you should know how to host an app service. I'm sorry. You should know how to create a virtual machine by using PowerShell, not just by manually, must be, right? You should know how to enable just in time, right? So here you will see you should know how to write function apps. You should know in app service how to enable diagnostic. So they want you that here you should go a bit above basics, right? So that is the compute part. And for that, they have allocated almost like 30%, maximum 30% of questions will come around that, right? That means that, and if you look at it, it makes sense. As a developer, I write 30% of the time I spend in coding, right? So that makes sense. Second is 15% goes for the storages. So basically, whatever it is, Cosmos DB or tables or your favorite SQL server. So those kind of storages, they are targeting here, which is 15%. And then they have more 15-20% around the security. So all this, we want it to be secured, right? By using, must be the Azure Key Vault you want to use to store the values, must be you want to go ahead and use SSL and so on. So they want you to be fully aware of how to make your application secured in the Azure environment, right? So 20% is given to that. I would have given more amount to this 20%. I would have given 30-40% to it, because that's the most important part. And remember that once you start going on cloud, security is the most important thing. So this should be actually be allocated more. And the other two parts out here, optimizing your application. So optimizing, monitoring, troubleshooting, right? So again, for that, they are given 15% of it. So whatever is the application, you would like to optimize it, you would like to monitor it, right? You would like to, how do you say, do tracing, you would like to enable debugging and so on. So all that is there, and also definitely performance, right? And the last one, which is very important, is you will be consuming a lot of Azure services. So your application would be consuming something out there. For example, must be an Azure registry, right? Or must be something else, right? So how do we go and we interact with those web APIs? So third-party services. For that, again, they have given 30%. They are very smart. Why they are given 30% out there? Because they want you to know that how to go ahead and consume Azure services. The more Azure services you consume, the more money they will earn, right? So that's why they are giving more marks to here. So basically, the whole 204 is divided into these 5 sections, and these 5 sections, if you watch very closely, it is from the developer point of view, right? So that is the topic breakup out there. So let us go ahead and first start with the first one, compute part, or I'll say code part. Compute, well, the compute is the right word, but in this I'm talking about not only hosting the app service, but also creating the virtual machine and so on, right? Okay, so let us get started. And you can see here in this PowerPoint, what I have out here, I have this every topic. For example, very quickly, let me show you. Okay, let me close this off. Okay. Let me, yeah, those are the dumps actually. But I am not really interested to show you any kind of dumps. I am interested to show you, oh, not this. Where is my Azure development tool? Yeah, that's Microsoft One PDF. Yeah, that's what is coming from Microsoft, right? So if you see here, this is the PDF also, which is attached with the PowerPoint. So you can see this is the first part here, 25 to 30%. And in that, the first subtopic. So there is a topic, and that it has subtopic like implementing infrastructure. So as a developer, I want the Microsoft wants you to know what kind of more in detail infrastructure information you should have at the code level. When you're saying hosting web application, what more detailed information you should have, and then hosting an Azure function. So Azure function means just you have a simple function or a single function, then what kind of more detail you have, right? So if you see, the first part is divided into 3 parts more out here. The one is the infrastructure part, the app service part, and the Azure function part, right? Now, please note that Azure Kubernetes, so there is something called Azure Kubernetes out here, which, they have excluded. It is out of scope. And also, the Azure container and registry also, at this moment, they have kept on hold, right? So I'll come more in detail into that. So let us get started with the first subtopic, implement infrastructure as a solution. So first you can see there is provision of VMs, right? So what I've done is, this is implement as a solution out here. I've given a link here to the Microsoft document, right? So if you go to the Microsoft document out here, for example, this is the Microsoft document of that. I will share you these PowerPoint presentations, don't worry. So you can see that let's create this virtual machine, and then these are the steps they have given, right? So what my goal would be, I would take each one of these links out here and I will show you the demonstrations. I will discuss with you, and we will then go through some of the questions of AZ204, right? Today, we will only go through, we will try to cover we'll try to cover 2 topics at least from here. We'll see if we can cover implementing IaaS solution and create app service with web app. So the second one here is create app service with web app. I don't know what happened to the heading, right? Okay. Now, first thing, provisioning of VMs. Provision means basically you would like to go and create a VM, right? So let me go to my portal out here. Now, the first thing is, I'm sure that you guys know how to do it manually, right? That's what my expectation is. So let me log into my account out here. So I'm taking the first subtopic of AZ204, provisioning of the VMs, right? Let me quickly go, guys, and let me see that I have weird account names. Let me switch. Actually, there were lots of virtual machines which are created out here. Okay, let me delete this also. I was doing some, right. Okay, sorry for all this. So now, first thing, if you want to go and create a virtual machine, so this is the Azure portal out here. Now, if people are new here today, please, you can go to portal.azure.com, put in your credit card, you get 13,000 rupees of free access. You can use those 13,000 rupees and learn free Azure, right? But you have to swipe your card. So people who are new, do not try to hunt for free accounts and so on. They don't exist actually, right? And now, so once you're into Azure out here, you can go and you can access any of the service, right? For example, I can go and I can create a virtual machine. This is just for people who are new to Azure, because I know that even though when we tell the students, still they come to the class here directly. So I know that this is a higher end class, but for them, when you want to go and create any resource of Azure, you will just type here virtual machine, you will create it. If you say you want to create SQL Server, you will type here SQL Server, you will create it. If you want, you can use the left menu and you can go to each one of those menus, but I think typing is much easy, right? So now, when you say you want to go and create a virtual machine, let us say I want to go and create a virtual machine, provisioning of virtual machine, right? Now, this provisioning of VM out here, you can go ahead, you can do it manually like this. So I can go and I can say create a VM and then fill all this form out here, right? And create it, right? So that's one way of doing it. Now, the another way of doing it is by using PowerShell, by using ARM templates, right? For example, think about that somebody wants to go and create 15 VMs. Let us say you have your network engineer out there, and the company person told him that please take all of these machines and host it on Azure, and we are going to get rid of all the hardware. Assume, I'm just saying, right? So that means that he wants to go and create 4 or 5 virtual machines online. And also it is possible that sometimes, some people want to create just a standard virtual machine, 4 GB RAM, and then this much GB hard disk, and must be a P2 machine. So when you type manually, you can make mistakes, right? So if you want to create a standard VM as per your company policy, must be it's a good idea to go ahead and write some PowerShell or use an ARM template. ARM template means it's a template which you can execute in Azure and you can create a virtual machine, right? Now, first, let us see by using PowerShell out here. So in order to enable PowerShell, you can see here, I'm moving my mouse at the top. You can see there is something called as Cloud Shell. Now, what is this Cloud Shell, right? Now, first thing, Azure is not meant really only for Windows platform. For example, if you go to create a virtual machine out here, it's possible that you can also go and you can select Ubuntu server. You can also go and you can select a Windows server, or you can select anything, right? So that means that, when I say I want to go ahead and execute a shell command, it can be a bash command. A bash command is a command, which people run on Unix. PowerShell is a command which people run on Windows, right? So what Azure did is they created something called as Cloud Shell out here. Once you go to this Cloud Shell, it will help you to execute both the bash commands as well as the PowerShell commands. So please note that PowerShell is for Windows and bash is for Linux, right? So here you can see now, once you say that you want to go ahead and create this Cloud Shell out here, he says that please create some storage. So let me go ahead and create a storage account. A storage account is where Azure does its storage, like containers, blobs. So when you want to create this Azure Cloud Shell, it asks you for a storage, and I'm going to go and create it. You can see creating, right? So now very quickly, before I run the commands of creating a virtual machine. So if you see here, so at this moment I'm going to go and use PowerShell, guys, because I feel that it's Azure out there, and PowerShell commands really works awesome. The Linux commands, they work very nicely, but not so much. There is a question here from Manisha here that why does it ask for storage? Why? Because at the end of the day, this Cloud Shell will also do some storages. For example, the last command which is fired, right? Or must be he wants to know what do you call? Because at the end of the day, he has to create a directory. He has to create a lot of things out there, right? So so basically, he will need some kind of storage out here, for the Azure Cloud Shell. Okay. Remember that every resource out there, whatever resource you create in Azure, it will need some kind of storage. Even a virtual machine will need a hard disk, right? So that's the storage he needs, and it is chargeable. Okay, there's a question out here. I will also start taking the questions also. Do I have to know a lot of PowerShell, and do I have to know a lot of bash commands? No, don't stress yourself. Only do what is needed. Believe me that my PowerShell is extremely weak. I only know a few things, for example, how to browse the directory and how to go and how to nicely copy paste the commands. So Azure is so big that you can't be master of everything, right? You should be in such a position that you know all the tools of Azure, you know how to execute it, you know how to Google it, right? So for example, now if I want to go and create, just very quickly, okay, first thing, bash commands and PowerShell commands, have some difference. For example, bash command. Now this is a bash command out here. I say ls, it actually gives me the list of the directory. That is a bash command, right? A PowerShell command, looks a bit longer. For example, get -child item. Oh gosh, it's gorgeous, right? So you have to go and type this paste as plain text out here, and it gives you this list of directory, right? So this is like the PowerShell command, and this is like that bash command. Now please note that what Windows people have done is you can still fire ls. It is not that you can't use ls, right? So even what the Windows people have done in the PowerShell, they are given such kind of huge commands, but they are also given the equivalent of bash. So you will never come to know that you are executing a bash command or you are executing a Windows PowerShell, because almost everything has been mapped, right? So we don't have to really worry. Fine. So now let us say I want to go and create a VM out here. So how do we do it? Nothing. You Google out, must be Microsoft Docs, and don't stress also too much about that. Do you know? So Microsoft Docs, create VM, right? And that link out there, which I had flashed, this link out there here is nothing but it actually helps you to create VM using PowerShell. So you can either Google it or either you can use this, right? And here in the steps are pretty straightforward. For example, look at this. First is you will create a resource group. It also gives you a nice window out here from where you can hit try it, and it will try executing into your PowerShell directly, right? So remember user group. I will not go into that. User group is nothing but for people who are new, very quickly. So user group is nothing but it's a collection of whatever you do in Azure. So for example, let us say you create a virtual machine. This is for people who are new today. Just I want to revise it. You create a virtual machine, you have a SQL server, and then you have one more virtual machine, and you have a network card. So you'd like to go and create a group and say that, okay, this all belongs to project A, so that you can build them. It must be you have something else, like you have on Cosmos DB, you have brought some file storage. Must be you want to group them into saying this is a US project, right? So a resource group is nothing but, it actually helps you to group, right? So I'm going to go and copy this command out here. Look at this. It is saying create a resource group called as my resource group in the location, what do you call, East US, right? Yes, for the exam, whatever PowerShell you need, I will teach you. Don't worry on that, right? If you look in the exam, right, they will actually give you a PowerShell and tell you that, okay, is this a valid command or not? Okay, so they don't really expect you to write PowerShell, at least from my perspective. But here it is now. So let us go ahead here, and for example, you can see this is the PowerShell out here. PowerShell command like new Azure user group, right? So they would like to know that you at least know this word, right? So there it is. You can see the user group is there. Look at the next command out here. This again a next. These they term it as CMDlets, commandlets. Commandlets means small commands out here which you can fire off Azure, right? So you can see this is the new Azure virtual machine. You attach it to this user group. This is the name of the virtual machine. This is the name of the network. Every Azure machine out there will belong to a network. So this is my VNet. Let's say tomorrow, if I want to go ahead and add one more virtual machine to this network, then I should add to my VNet. And then you have a subnet, NSG group, a security group out here, and definitely I need a public IP address. And I want to say that please go ahead and create this virtual machine where 80 port is open, and I can go ahead and I can do an RDP. RDP means I can connect it via using terminal services, right? So a very straightforward command out here. I'll just copy this and let's paste it out here, right? And there it is. And you can see now he will now ask me for the credentials out here. So I'll say Shiv, and I'll give some password there, 1, 2, 3 or something. Okay, so there it is. It is creating the what do you call? Right. So there's a very good question out here. So it does not have anything out there. So by default it creates Windows, right? So by default he goes and he creates a Windows, yeah, RDP port, at this moment you have to keep it standard, but you can go and change it if you want it. But RDP ports are mostly standard. So that's the RDP port out there, right? So you can see now our resource is getting created, right? So the first thing, yeah, this username which you see out here is the username by which I will be logging into my virtual machine, right? So there it is getting created, right? The same thing you can do it manually also out here, which I will not take in the class out here. You can go and you can fill all this manually, and you can still create your virtual machine, right? So guys, first thing before until this virtual machine is created, any questions on the structure of the exam, the goal of the exam, right, and the subtopics which we have started? Any questions here? Yes. So the VM configuration is all default. I will just show that. The VM configuration and the operating system is Windows, and I think it takes Windows 2019 as a default, right? So whatever the new OS you will take as a default. Okay, any questions here? At least on the structure of the exam. How to use the same PowerShell for creating multiple VMs. See, if you want to go and create a multiple VM, PowerShell, is a programming language. PowerShell is, you can write for loops in PowerShell, frankly. So you can go ahead, you can write a full .ps file, right? Remember, our PowerShell is nothing but it is C#. So if you look at the PowerShell scripts or programming, right, it is completely C#. So it has a for loop. So what you can do is you can Microsoft PowerShell basics, right? we should take one class for PowerShell and ARM. I feel so. Just one over there, you know. So you can see here. Remember, like when you talk about Bash, you know, Bash is string based. So the Linux is string based. So any data you get is string, but here it is object based. Means you don't receive a file. Or let's say you say ls, then you don't get a string. You actually get a file object, folder object, right? So first thing, it is all object based out here, object oriented, and second, you can write C# commands into this. So you know, over here also you can go and you can say do a for loop, and you can go and you can run those commands, whatever I've shown out here. So you can actually create a PS file. You can actually go and create a PS file, and you can actually, for example, let me show you some sample scripts out here, like managing drives. Look at this, listing all files within a folder. Where are the for loops? I was expecting. These are simple commands, but you can remember the complete PowerShell scripting is C#. So you can actually go and write, it's all C# out there, right? So you can go and you can actually do a for loop, you can execute these commands, you know, what I've shown out here, and you can create in a bulk. Okay. Okay, so now let us go ahead. I'll take up the questions. So I hope that my VM is created. Yeah. So I can see, I can just go back to my virtual machines out here, and let us see. Let us do a refresh. So you can see my VM has been created, right? And I can go and I can connect to my VM from here through this RDP out here. So you can see the RDP port out here. I can download the RDP file and I can connect it, right? Or I can even get the IP address. If I get the public IP address, I can still connect directly by using MSTSC. So you can see here, it is, I can go and I can connect out there, right? And it should be a Windows operating system by default, right? Now, okay, so let's move to the next topic. So this was, you know, creating a VM. Guys, I can know that there are lots of questions out there. We'll take all of these questions, you know, don't worry on the questions for now. But first, let me complete the subtopics. Or else what will happen is, so if there are something extra, for example, as people said that, okay, can you show us how can we now set Linux? Can you show us the property of how can we go ahead and give the size of the VM, right? So those are again properties out there. Must be in the next class. I will iterate more detail into it, right? So now here, let's go to the next topic out here. Just-in-time access to VM. Okay, this is again, Microsoft expects you to know what exactly is just-in-time. Now what happens is when you actually create a VM out there and when you give it to everyone, the RDP port is opened forever, right? It is open forever. So anybody can connect at any time. So is it possible that I can say that, okay, let me connect to RDP out there, but then after 2 hours, just disconnect it, just block the port, you know, so it should be opened only on just in time and then again blocked, right? So over here, you know, we have something called as the JIT, the just in time. So again, you can see here, over here, I will not do this now, but over here, you know, they have given, so you can see the small diagram out there. So over here, you know, they've given all the commands out here. For example, you can go and you can copy these commands. Let me just show. He has shown the manual process as well as I think he also showed the commands. No? Right. Okay, programmatically also he has shown. So you can see that he has actually shown here programmatically how to go and enable the JIT policies, right? I will not do this. Let me go and show you manually, but you know how to do the how to make a VM as just in time, right? So first thing, the configuration of just in time is done through the security center. So you can see first thing, you have to go to the security center out here and you need to ensure that you have the feature of JIT, right? So you can see I'm out here and I will go to JIT. You can see JIT is, let me search here. Okay, just in time here down. In case you're not able to find it, please, you can just say just and you get it, right? So there it is. You can see now my just in time is now, what do you call, it is all there. And here, you know, it is not showing me my virtual machine. So you can see, okay, that's my virtual machine, right? So you can see that's my virtual machine out there. And that this virtual machine, what was his name? VM1234, is it? Okay, let me go back there. I think it was VM1234. Anytime you get confused that where is your virtual machine, where exactly it is, right? What you can do is, if you want to just see your virtual machine, you can click on this icon and you just see virtual machine. If you want to just see your resource group, you can click on this icon, you just see your resource group, right? So sometimes, a lot of times, you just get confused where you are, right? So you can see in my virtual machine, it is my VM out here. So let me go to my JIT, and there it is, my VM. So I can click on this and I can say enable JIT on this VM. Now, when I say enable JIT on this VM, it means that JIT means a lot of things. For example, which port you want to get access. You want to block all the ports. How much time you want to get access, right? So when you say enable JIT out here, it now starts saying that, okay, tell me which port you want to add. For example, you can see our, this one is our 3389 is our port out here. So I can click out here and I can also decrease and increase the maximum request time. So I can say, okay, this is the maximum request time. I can decrease it by hours, staying only 1 hour. You can use. I can also give a CIDR block. For example, one is that allow any source IP to connect, or another one I can give a range of IP out here, a CDR block is subnet. So if I move my mouse out here, you can see, I can say that, okay, allow from 192.168.99.0 till 24. So 192.168.99.1, 99.2, 99. So in that, we know only those IPs can connect, right? So just in time gives you more security for your virtual machines, right? So I will not do it now, but if you try it, you can go and you can enable it. You can try to keep your virtual machine on for an hour. After an hour, you will see that it is disconnected. That port is blocked, right? So guys, any question on how to enable JIT, how to configure just in time to a VM? Again, I'm repeating, we have started with the first topic of AZ204. We have looked into provisioning of the VM by using PowerShell. We looked into the second topic here, just in time, and we saw that where exactly to go and configure it, right? And now we look into ARM templates. Any questions? Yes. Which one will give you low cost, Windows or Linux? A very good question out here. Definitely Linux, because Linux does not will not have the license code attached to it. So it should be Linux. But I'm not sure, guys. Over here, there is a controversy. If you use Red Hat Linux, remember Linux are again of two types. If you use Ubuntu, there is no license for it. But if you use Red Hat, there is a license for it. And I'm not really sure on this, but you have to work it out. Means now Red Hat is created by someone else, right? So he will be selling at X amount, a bulk sale to Microsoft. And Microsoft will charge X amount to sell it to you on his platform. So that means that if it must be your question is that, is Windows cheaper or Red Hat Linux cheaper? Then at that time we need to really check out. I did not check out, But if you say, is Windows cheaper or Ubuntu of the Linux is cheaper? I think Ubuntu is cheaper, because Ubuntu is an open source, right? So remember that if there is a licensing cost by some other company like Oracle or Red Hat, then those will be added. So if it is open source, Linux will be cheaper. Yes. Is it necessary for a JIT to be configured? No, even if you don't, yes, it is necessary, or else your port is open forever, right? It is just there opened and people can make an attack. And think about it, like after some time, a lot of time what happens in companies also, people log in from their home, they do some R&D, and they just close from the top and just close the NSTSC, the terminal services, and go off, right? And a lot of time it just keeps adding over there. So I think, if there is just in time, at least, those ports will be blocked automatically, right? At least they will be closed for that time. So yes, it's an extra security. A very good question that is. Will it enable cost? Reduce cost? No, it will not reduce cost. If you enable JIT, actually, when I enable JIT out here, he asked me for a lot of things, and he will surely be charging me. So let me look at my cost center out here. Must be I can see the cost tomorrow, because today he will not generate the bill. But JIT helps you. JIT will add extra to the cost. Yes. Because what happened is, this JIT was not enabled in my Azure. When I enabled it, he told me that please upgrade your subscription. So looks like that he will actually charge me. Yes. Yeah, JIT you should use only on prod. Okay, so JIT, should be okay. Very quickly. Right, let me talk about, I think people did not understand JIT. Okay, I can see from the questions out there. See, now what happens is you create a VM, okay, because I can't show you the demo of JIT because the expiry time is 1 hour. So if the expiry time is 1 hour, how can I show you the, so let's say you create a VM out there and you have an RDP port. So you have enabled some ports out here, right? You have enabled some ports out here. Now you want to just put an extra security out there saying that enable the port, only when it is needed. When a proper user logs in, at that time only enable the port, or else don't enable it, right? So what you can do is, for example, for RDP port, whatever it is, that 3000 port, whatever it is, right? So first thing, that port will actually be closed. It will not be open automatically. Now, when a proper username and password is sent, right, he will enable the port for that time. You can work on the VM, right? The user will work on the VM, and then he will go off. And after like whatever that hours are specified out there, this port will be blocked. So it will be just in time. Only when needed, this port will be open. That is the beauty of JIT. I hope everybody is following this. Yes, JIT has to be configured for each and every VM. Just in time has to be configured for each and every VM. Okay, guys, so let us continue. And also you can go and you can remove ports. So you can see here, it is not only the RDP port, but you can also go and configure other ports as well. You can see that, for example, I don't want to really have this port. Look at this. This port, I don't want 22 port to be open. I don't know why he has opened 22 port. Must be FTP. I'm not sure. So I can delete this, right? I can delete this. I can just keep the RDP port on. So you can actually go and also delete it and access and enable and do everything, right? So just in time enables you to lock down your VMs in the network by blocking the inbound traffic to specific port. It enables you to control the access and reduce the attack on the server by allowing access only upon the specific need. So you can see at the top, they have talked about the just in time. So it is at the traffic level. It is doing at the network security level, right? Okay. Okay, good. So now let us continue. Let's look into what was the other topic. Guys, let us continue. Now let us continue. I'll go through all the questions. Don't worry. We will have one session for questions. We will have one session for the type of questions that are asked in the exam. So we will also have a demo questions out here, which I will flash. We will give the exam. But first, let us try to cover some topics, or else what kind of questions we can go through, right? ARM templates. So again, now for example, you have this my VM out here. What exactly is an ARM template? And you want to create this exact type of VM again and again. So in your company, let us say somebody wants to create a server, so you create a standard template and you can execute that template again and again. So what you can do is you can go right out here and you can go to the export template out here. You can see there is an export template. So I can go to the export template out here. And this export template actually gives you an ARM file. So you can see this is a file out here. It's a JSON file, the name of the VM, the hard disk, what kind of hard disk that VM has used, what kind of size is of the VM, right? And what kind of operating system, everything is out here, right? So you can see there is a template and there is a parameter, there is a script. If you want, you can download this template, you can change it and you can deploy it, right? So I can go ahead, I can download this template. If I download this template, it will give me a small zip file out here. I can open this JSON in my VS Code or Visual Studio. I can change a lot of things and I can update it again, right? Now, so you can see there are parameters out here. So these are the parameters, the name of the virtual machine, the name of this one and this one, right? Now what I can do is I can take this and say that let me go and create an ARM template and deploy it. So I'll go and I'll deploy this. So I didn't download it. I just deployed it as it is. You can see now it has now created a template, and this template is auto-filled. You can see that this whole template is now auto-filled out here. Definitely have to go and purchase this template first thing. So you can see that everything out there is paid, So you can see now this template is out here, and from the Azure Marketplace, I have to take this template. If you don't want to take this template, you can copy this ARM template as a simple JSON file and execute it, right? But the point here, what I'm saying is, all of this will be pre-filled out here, okay? And then I can just go and say create. So what ARM template does is, ARM template actually helps you to create a ready-made template so that you can execute it again and again, rather than going and filling everything like this is in East US, and this has the hard disk of this, and Windows 2016 server and 8 GB RAM, all that you can go ahead, create it from the resource itself, right? So that's what exactly is ARM templates out here. So I'll not execute it now, but I've just shown you, where the menus are. For now, let us not try to execute it. So guys, any questions out here? Yes. Like AMI, yes. In AWS, we have AMI. Yes, absolutely, Divesh. Resource group can be same for this VM. Absolutely, yes. You can keep the resource group same, but if you just try to create with the same VM, it will give an error saying it's duplicate. So yes, resource group can be same. Okay, this is a very good question out here. What should we use? You have ARM, you have PowerShell, and what is what, right? This ARM is meant, only really for Azure. ARM does not execute in Windows environment. This PowerShell is coming from the Windows environment. So basically, this PowerShell is actually Windows shell command. So when you talk admins, when you look at admins out there, a lot of good admins. I have not seen such kind of admins in India, but I know that those good admins out there, they really know how to write a good PowerShell command. So if you tell them that, okay, how to go and create a backup of SQL Server or file backup, in minutes, they have some template ready. They know what to write, they know what to change, they know how to Google, right? So PowerShell is for people who are already admins, who are already, they know about Windows environment, and they have an acquaintance with PowerShell. So most of the people will know PowerShell. Now this ARM is coming from Azure, actually, from the Azure team, because they wanted this. If you look at the PowerShell command, it is a code, right? While they wanted something more static, they wanted more declarative, like JSON is very declarative, right? So they created ARM. Now I would suggest that if there is something ready-made out there, for example, you create you go ahead and you create such kind of VM, and this VM, if you want to go and export it, definitely it is ARM. But if someone says that you want to go and write this ARM yourself, I won't do that, right? So if there is an Azure resource out there and you want to create a topo copy of it, then I would use ARM, because he is giving me a ready-made template out here. I don't have to write all this code. This code, I think it is very difficult to write, at least for people out there, because it's quite tough, right? Now, PowerShell command is for things like this, where you want to go and loop something, you want to go and back up something, right? Over there, you will write the command manually, because it is something very custom. It has nothing to do with Azure as such. So if you have an Azure resource out there and you want to create an exact resource, I will be using ARM. If you are going to just do simple things like copying files, restarting something, then I will write a code in PowerShell, right? So PowerShell I will use more for admin activity, while existing resources of Azure, which are very tough. For example, let us take some another resource. For instance, let us say let's go to the virtual machine out here. Inside this virtual machine also we have a lot of things. This virtual machine also uses network cards. So if you look here, look at this my resource group. So if you see, when we created this virtual machine out here, it's not just the one thing. It must have created lots of things. Didn't it create the VM here? Yeah, there it is. So you can see here over here, for example, this network security group. Now this network security group, you can see it is so complex. How can you go and create using this by PowerShell? What kind of commands you have to write, right? So you can go right here, export template and export it. So if you have an existing resource, then I will use ARM, or else, just for small quickie things like for loops, dumping something here to there, or firing one or two commands like new Azure, new, it's okay to have PowerShell, right? No, not only to create new VM. So there's a question out here. It's to create any kind of resources. So this is a good question. So that's why it's not about VMs. You can see, is it only to create new VM? No. No, sir. Datta sir, you can see here, this is a network security group. A network security group is nothing but, you can think about if you have two machines, in between, if you want to put some rules, then this is there, right? So that also I can do. For example, when I created this VM, he also gave me IP address, or he gave me an IC card. If you see here, look at this, he gave me a hard disk. Now this hard disk of this size, I want to go and create it as it is. Then again, export template. So every resource out there, every hardware, what you configure on Azure, right? You can create an ARM out of it, right? When you create at the VM level, it creates everything by default. Right. Developer will be restricted to only create PS. Yeah, that depends on the admin actually. How much they will do. That's a different thing. See, every company policy is different, right? They will not even, admins are very, very conservative. They will not allow you to do anything. For example, I was now working for a very big company as a consultant. I didn't even have the rights to do PowerShell out there. So I have to request him. I can only do configuration of existing resources. So that depends on the admin. But so in real time, yes. Yes, you can use ARM as a part of DevOps. Absolutely. You can invoke ARM from PowerShell. You can use both PowerShell and ARM, and you can make them work together. Absolutely. Yes, so there's a question out here, but we can also create PS as like an often ARM script, but it will be very difficult, right, Manish sir? Think about it. You have to give every configuration out there. So this would be that you just create a resource and export a template. A PowerShell script, for creating. So if you want to go and create a VM out there, yes, you created a VM, you gave him the configuration, you have to give each and every configuration. So yes, you can do it, but then I think it would be too much of a task. It is not only for VMs. Again, like here's a question here. ARM is not only for VMs. With ARM, you can create anything, any resource of Azure. I just showed how to do with a VM. Like for example, you have an SQL Server database. You can create an ARM of it. And you will say that whenever anybody wants to create a virtual SQL Server DB, you will execute this ARM because it has a standard size of MDF, a standard size of LDF, standard thing which it gets enabled. For example, look at this. Like in one of our companies, we were creating production server. We had a production server and a testing server. Now the testing server was very specific. You have to install .NET 3.5 framework. You have to install IIS something, 7.0 because that application was old. You have to install .NET 4.5 and so on, and whatever, some configurations with that. So what I did is I create a virtual machine manually. I did everything and I created an ARM. So now what happens is, whenever they want to actually go and test something, they just create an ARM, they run the ARM, and that ARM has all the things, what is needed to create the exact production machine, the testing machine what they want, right? So writing all that, through a PowerShell script would be very difficult. Okay. Yes, okay. Okay, fine. So guys, try to work more with Azure. You will come across these situations, right? Okay, so let us move ahead. Oh, we have only 6 minutes. Okay, fine. That's too less for today. Okay, so we have completed only 3 topics today, and I'm okay with that. Okay, guys, we'll stop here today. It's only 6 minutes, and in 6 minutes, I can't complete this Docker and other things, right? So in the next class now, what my goal would be, I will be doing. So this will be the structure and format. First thing, we will try to complete the Azure Compute, and in that we have 3 subtopics. We have implement, the EAS solution. So today we have completed provisioning of VMs, configuring of VM for remote access JIT, and what exactly is ARM templates, how to create them, right? Kubernetes will not take because it is out of scope. And then we will go with app services, how to enable diagnostic, how to enable SSL, how to store connection strings into a key vault, and so on, right? Azure functions, again, how to write a durable function, how to use timer and webhooks, right? And then what we'll do, once this topic gets completed, we will go through some questions of this AZ2 for this particular topic, right? So guys, any questions here? Yes. And all this PowerPoint presentation and the PDF, everything will be uploaded with the video. So whenever the video is live, you will see one section of download which will have the PowerPoint presentation. And please, I would suggest go through the PowerPoint presentation, go through each one of this link and try to read it if possible. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks a lot. And in the next session, we will again continue. Thank you. Okay, I'll take this question out here. Has AZ204 replaced 203? Yes, 203 is gone. 203 is gone. Yes, 203 is gone. That has been replaced. Yes. Okay. Question support. Can you take all the questions? You know, some of the questions I was not able to answer. Can you please go and paste those questions into Telegram so that we can answer them? Must be in the next class. Yeah. You have access to the chat, right? Afterwards, support. You have access to the chat, isn't it? So can you please, so that we don't leave anything, right? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks. We don't have WhatsApp. Okay. Question, you can stop recording. I'll just answer these some of the questions.